So we've got a nice narrow border here. I'm going to double ditch that so that that pops out and frame the inside. And then I'll actually take my ruler and just kind of hold them down like that. And then I'm going to just kind of... Hello everybody and welcome to the Quilters Apothecary. Today we are going to talk about and load and get started on this beautiful pastel quilt owned by Jeanette Woodke. Now Jeanette actually brought me 3 quilts at the same time and she wanted edge to edge on all 3. When we pulled this one out of the bag last and looked at it, we decided that custom was going to be the way to go. And let me take you over to the borders and kind of explain why we kind of switched over to custom. So here we have, of course, a inside border. We have a little kind of a narrow flange between the body and the inner border. And then, of course, we have the outer border. And separating the outer border and the inner border are these beautiful prairie points. So, of course, an edge-to-edge computer design would probably get caught on these. Some would be flipped the opposite way. And so that wasn't going to be the way that we were going to go with this particular quilt. And there were a couple other things. I want to take you up to the corner. This piece, actually, the borders are so well done on this particular piece, as well as the prairie points, so that I just felt it really does deserve to have some custom work in the borders, as well as the inner border to take this up a couple notches. Okay, so let's head down here and let's talk about these borders right here. Okay, so now with these borders, with the outer border, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ditch here and here on both sides. And then, of course, here, just under the prairie points, I'm going to ditch out here. Of course, right in front of the prairie points, we're going to ditch there to actually stabilize all the prairie points, and then ditch between the outer border and the inner border. And then I'm going to put fill, I believe, inside these blue-gray areas. And then in this particular inner border, I'm going to draw out and show you how I like to do a nice, mellow, undulating feather. It's not going to be an extreme one. It's going to be a nice, mellow, undulating feather rather than like a curling Amish type feather. And so, Patrick, if you could zoom in on this little narrow part so people can see. Nice. And I'd like everybody to welcome Patrick. Patrick is our new cameraman here. So with this particular narrow border here, I'm going to ditch on both sides, and that separates this border from the body of the quilt. So now we're going to come out and zoom out a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a continuous curve alternative from Mystical Grids in the body of the quilt. So unless we change our mind once we get this loaded on what we're going to do, let's head over to the machine, get it loaded, and get to quilting. Okay, so now I have the quilt top loaded. Of course, we have the double bat with the wool and then the 80-20 towards the back. I have basted the edge all the way around. And now we're going to actually start from the top down. I'm going to start on the side. We're going to do our ditch work first on the outside, and then on the inside, and then the next outside, and then the next inside, and then the last one will be this last little guy just before the prairie points. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use my square ditcher just because my wrist is kind of giving me a little trouble today, so I won't have to turn it as I maneuver the ditch work. And so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we have our stitches locked. I am at 12 stitches per inch. I'm going to follow the line on the fabric. right up to the corner, stop, pivot, get up on my step stool with the ruler so I can see over the edge. Now, this time around, I'm actually doing something a little different. I have my isocord embroidery thread in my bobbin, and I am using my glide because that cool blue-gray matched perfectly to what we have going on the fabric on top. And I'm going to follow that just like it were a ditch. Coming up to my corner. Okay, I'm at my corner. Now I'm going to head down. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the inside of the print on that fabric. Now I have the thickness of the actual prairie points. So I'm going to hear a little bit of ruler wobble as I come across. And now I'm going to head across the top. And again, I am going to hold those prairie points down with the ditch ruler as I go rather than pin them. You could pin them if you want, but this is going to save me probably about 20 minutes. And what I'm hoping will happen once we put the filler inside this gray area is, of course, that'll give a ledge and that'll pop these up kind of permanently, which will show off all those beautiful prairie points that somebody took a long time to piece and then add in. I actually have the Susan Cleveland makes an incredible tool to make prairie points. I'm getting ready to do something with that for our channel here in a few months. Because we want to do it all. All. And yes, I have actually done quilts where I pin back every prairie point. Couple times, and then it's always the last border when I realize, oh, I can use my ruler and hold those down. Want to remember not to tilt your ruler up so your hopping foot doesn't go up and over. We're going to come down the side. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my plan a little bit. I'm going to ditch between the second border in and the body of the quilt first. And then what I'm going to do is, I have Rich on his way here. He's going to raise the hopping foot because I found that the hopping foot is going to have to be raised to go over the prairie points here in the ditch at the top. So once I ditch this, he's going to raise the hopping foot so that I can go over this. Typically, I find that I have to raise my hopping foot maybe about 3 times a year, and this is one of those times. So there we go. Okay, so I'm locking my stitches and staying in the ditch. Now I am not using invisible thread with this. I'm using a nice pale pink, which works perfect for this. Even if I go out of the ditch a little bit, you can't tell because it matches perfectly with the fabric color. Okay, so now we have raised our hopping foot. I'm going to go right into that ditch, right above the prairie points. Take my time, nice and slow. Turn, come around. Move those out of the way. And again, I'm pretty lucky. Every time my foot is getting close, it's kind of pushing them back so I don't have to pin all of them down. Spoke too soon. Come down my sides. Lock. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to mark the feathers in that border and get those quilted.